For the longest time, I honestly thought that I was lazy and that I was pissing my potential away. I'd look at all my massive ambitions, then look at the complete lack of movement to get closer to them. Then I would just come to the conclusion that I'm not cut out for big things, that my work ethic is abysmal, that I'm not strong enough in my mind to do anything other than going with what life is generous enough to give me. I just hit a major roadblock in my life the other day that was utterly devastating. When life rolls these hurdles in front of me, my operating system just crashes. I look at my goals, then the hurdles, and my brain shuts down. Out of fight, flight, or freeze, my response is always a total freeze. I default to wanting to disappear. I give up on all my goals, even the ones completely unrelated to the problem. I keep to myself and tell myself that no matter how hard I try, I will never ever amount to anything, so it's best to just accept it. Stop trying. Disappear from society. I stop talking to people and bottle it all up. It's easy to look at yourself in this state and label it laziness, but it's not that. The freeze is a survival response to high stress, friction, and deep overthinking. Currently, I'm trying really hard not to regress into this mentality. I know that I'm not a particularly lucky or fortunate person. I've even been told by people, not one, multiple, in jest, that I must be cursed. It's a running gag at this point because everyone notices that if something can go wrong in my life, it absolutely will. But even so, this time I kept telling myself, in the words of Itzy, the absolute queens of bouncing back, that nothing's gonna put me off. You just have to keep moving. There's no other choice. So a couple of days ago, I felt this freeze come on. I had the sinking feeling, the hollowed out chest, the pit in the stomach, the whole 9 yards. For a good few days, I couldn't even bring myself to finish reading the legal document that changes the trajectory of my life for the worse, let alone talk to people closest to me about it. But being stuck in this paralysis forced me to reflect on all those other times I felt like I would never achieve anything. And it made me realize that almost none of it was actually laziness. When you've had high expectations set for you your entire life by parents, teachers, and authority figures, even in a completely loving way, jumping into something new becomes terrifying. Why? Because you can't guarantee you will be excellent at it. If you tie your entire self-worth to being capable in various areas, then facing a risk where you might fail seems completely catastrophic. So your brain plays a trick on you to protect your ego. It chooses a total mental paralysis. It tells you it's safer to stay warm and cozy in a slump and not even try. Because if you don't try, you can't mess up. You can't disappoint people, they won't think less of you. And best of all, you get to keep the illusion that you could have done it, if only you had wanted to. My fear of failure has spent years playing incredibly sophisticated tricks on me, just to keep me frozen. The most recent big trick was less than 4 years ago. For years I lived in the English countryside, but I desperately wanted to pursue professional acting. So for once, I thought, I need to do something about it now and damn the consequences. I picked up my entire life and moved to London to be closer to the action. But looking back, my brain treated the move itself as the achievement. It sounds ridiculous, but it gave me a fake milestone, a false sense of progress, so I can then keep coming up with excuses as to why I'm not progressing. First, I needed to settle in. Then I needed to find a job. Then complained that the full-time job drained me too much to have energy for anything else. Then I needed to look for a more flexible job. But those don't pay well enough. So that's where it all ended. There was never a right time. Back in the countryside, I used to look at small local casting calls on Facebook. I'd read them, research them, memorize the sites they provided, then I would tape myself performing it. I did 95% of the heavy lifting, but then at the absolute last second, I would scan the casting call for the tiniest, most insignificant reason why I wasn't the right fit. I would find that one microscopic flaw, use it as an excuse to never hit submit, and keep the video hidden forever. It allowed me to get the creative satisfaction of acting without the terrifying vulnerability of actually being judged by someone else. I remember this story circulating in my old acting school of a girl who desperately wanted to be in the local theatre company's play, but they were only casting boys. So she literally cut her hair off in the bathroom right before the audition, walked in, and got the part. And then here I was, backing out of an application because the casting call's age range was off by a single year. What a coward. It was a stark realization. It has never been laziness, but something much worse, a deeply rooted mental paralysis. I was doing all the work in secret because risking failure is unacceptable to my fragile ego. Sitting with this discomfort and letting myself walk away gave me the clarity I needed to pick myself up again. And that's exactly why I had to stop trusting my brain to just feel like being productive instead of actually being productive. I had to build a concrete, lazy-proof framework to outsmart my own defense mechanisms. This time, the thing that started breaking this paralysis wasn't a peaceful, curated mental health routine. It was pure, unfiltered spite. I looked at the hurdle, I realized how fundamentally unfair it was, and I forced myself to feel something other than defeat. The only feeling capable of propelling me forward was anger. It might not be the textbook advice for your mental health, but choosing anger over freezing was the only way to reboot the system. This spiteful energy was my big red emergency power button. It didn't instantly cure the freeze, I'm still 1 foot in and 1 foot out, but it gave me enough energy to take one micro action. Out of spite, I opened my laptop and booked my life in the UK test, so at least my citizenship moves forward, even if this other part of my life is currently stuck. Booking this test was my first sign of life. I stopped crying and feeling sorry for myself, and I did something to reach my goals. I can't let one injustice crumble my entire life like dominoes. If one door closes, you've just got to keep moving, even if you have to crawl, until you find another. So today, while I'm still halfway in this freeze, I'm stepping back into my Filofax. I'm not here to do heavy, stressful planning. I don't have the bandwidth for it yet. I'm just here to reset and decorate my pages. I was so locked into pure practicality for the last few weeks that I neglected the creative part of planning that I actually love. Now is the perfect time to keep things easy. Play with some stationery and create something beautiful to cheer myself up. I'm leaning into the 3 pillars of strategic effort that keep me moving when life gets heavy. But first, we need to redefine laziness. Being lazy doesn't necessarily mean low effort. It can also mean strategic efficiency. In a way, a highly strategic, lazy person has a superpower. They get the exact same results as someone exerting maximum effort, but because they hate wasting energy, they invent a way to do the task using the absolute minimum energy possible. Laziness, when flipped on its head, becomes the ultimate tool for working smarter, not harder. The first pillar of being strategically lazy is the anti-redundancy rule. I absolutely despise any form of duplication of work. I get more than enough of that at my day job. And because of this, I don't use traditional monthly planners along with my weekly pages in a single planner. It's redundant. I only duplicate information that I know I might want to look back on at a glance, like holidays, flights, any major life event, never repetitive tasks like paying rent. And instead of monthly pages, I use a single yearly insert to conserve as much room in my small pocket molden as possible. It keeps my setup ultra clean and ensures I'm never wasting energy writing the same thing twice. But if you personally like monthlies, that's completely fine. Just find whatever cuts the friction for you. The second pillar is the front-loading strategy, which is all about outsourcing heavy thinking to your past self. Decision-making is what eats up the most cognitive energy. When you're in a slump, trying to think and do at the same time is a recipe for forgetting things, getting brain fog, and eventually shutting down. So, separate the thinking from the doing. Break tasks down into the tiniest, almost ridiculous micro steps. For myself, for video editing for example, I go with format card, check battery, clear desk. Once you get the ball rolling with all those micro steps, momentum takes over and you won't want to stop. But if a rogue idea crosses your mind while you're on a roll and in the doing phase, allow it. We aren't gatekeeping our own brains here. Rules can be broken. The final pillar is simplicity, or the path of least resistance. The core is the proximity rule. Keep your planner with you at all times like you would your phone. That way you're never tempted to scatter notes across random apps or scrap papers. No redundancy. Keep it on your nightstand because the best ideas usually seem to come at night. That's why today I was mostly focusing on decorating. It's the lowest friction path back into my creative space. It's a safe, low stakes, quiet way to keep my hands moving and my mind away from crashing. We don't have to fix our entire lives in a single day. Sometimes just turning a blank page into something beautiful is enough of a reboot to face tomorrow. I'm still processing this whole situation, by the way, but I'm seriously thinking about doing a proper sit-down video soon to talk about the sheer injustice of this new hurdle and how to navigate a system that feels unfair. Let me know in the comments if that's a conversation you'd want to have with me, and if there's enough interest, I'll set up the camera and we can talk about it.